Hey, I wanted to talk about interesting perfume notes and this time more about obscure notes or unusual notes and synthetic notes. In niche perfumes and also in some designer perfumes, you may notice some unusual perfume notes such as the lipstick note, and many others, partially synthetic notes, either combined notes using natural ingredients, for example, the gasoline note in Dior Fahrenheit, and more obscure and unusual notes that would be extremely rare, such as the note of diving suit, dirt, dust, and for instance dewdrops. And of course these are very unusual overall, and most likely these would be better in niche perfumes, limited edition perfumes and so forth. But the thing is that unusual perfume notes do exist, and for instance such note as aldehydic note or aldehydes is something that is pretty frequent. Especially and also in vintage perfumes, and also some Chanel perfumes. And talking more about unusual notes, for instance, the aldehydic note is an abstract, soapy, fresh note that is something on the verge of fresh laundry, and a beautiful ozonic note in the air after a rainstorm in a sunny day. So very interesting ozonic aldehydic note. And when talking about aldehydic notes in perfumes, for example, Dior New Look is one of the higher grade Dior perfumes, more limited edition than the usual Dior fragrances that you may see in most fragrance stores, and for instance also Dior Byredo Blanche, as well as some fragrances from the Comme des Garçons, and some Chanel perfumes such as the Chanel 22. And talking about other fragrances, there are more unusual notes such as the blood perfume note, which is also synthetic note, and it is a note with fresh metallic nuances. Occasionally perfume houses and perfumers highlight a note in the fragrance pyramid, either metallic note or blood note. It really depends on the choice of the company. As it is for the marketing purposes, and typically with blood note we would understand a more cooler tone metallics, and then a lot of Sergio Dance fragrances have blood notes, and also for instance Toscolat Inexcusable Evil has a blood note that is highlighted as a blood note instead of metallic notes. And many other Italian and French perfume companies from the niche line. And talking about like Comme des Garçons, the company has a perfume Comme des Garçons in 2011, a fragrance created and just some years ago with a note of brown scotch tape. So this is even more bizarre. And a lot of fragrances from Comme des Garçons actually have more unusual, bewildering notes. For instance, in this particular fragrance, there is a note of brown scotch tape, industrial glue, combined with aldehydic notes, which is also a synthetic note, and lilac, styrax, which is a resin, musk, hawthorn, and saffron on some leather. So more avant-garde fragrance combinations are also possible, and thus synthetic notes or combined natural notes to create a new note is something that actually does exist. And of course, in most cases, these unusual fragrance notes you won't see in normal fragrance stores, but you can order or purchase from niche perfume stores interesting, more unusual scents. And for instance, a candle wax scent note is also something that you can find, for instance, in Toscolat Anarchist perfume. Also note of Kashmirian. This one is actually more commonly met note, for instance, in Versace perfumes, in Good Girl, Carolina Herrera perfume, a Kashmirian note is something that is more frequently used even in designer and lower price range scents. For example, Narciso Rodriguez Pure Musk for Her, Victoria's Secret sprays, Bare Vanilla, Fugazi Angel Dust. So Kashmirian note is a synthetic fragrance note which is reminiscent of soft, warm, woody, musky amber scent, so almost like a warm cashmere jumper during the cold season. And it is a pleasant note, so it is more or less universally likable, but this is one of the fragrance notes that not everyone can feel if they have some olfactory issues, basically issues with their ability to smell different fragrances. Then Ambroxan and Kashmirian notes is something that they might have problems with and might even not feel them at all. Also, cigarette notes in perfumes. It is more common to typically have and include a tobacco note, either tobacco blossoms or actual cigarette tobacco perfume note, but some perfumers actually list cigarette note in the fragrance. For example, Berenia, Tabac Sur, and Silhouette Parfum, and Désir Noir, and for instance, also they mentioned earlier the diving suit note is also something absolutely obscure, but it is noted and listed in Veiled Perfumes Mare Gothicum fragrance, with the notes of seaweed, wild leaf, pine, amber, motor oil, patchouli, diving suit note, driftwood, and salt. So an interesting, more or less vintage Victorian style diving topic fragrance. And some of these fragrances are actually not only limited edition, but even available in the niche perfumer stores all the time, and you can order them online. And even more unusual note that is actually listed both in niche perfumes and also smaller perfume companies perfumes, and also in some OG old school fragrances. It is the vinyl note. For example, Demeter fragrance vinyl, so Demeter perfumes has a fragrance with vinyl note. Tom Ford Black Lacquer, I haven't tried this one, but it could potentially be a very beautiful scent, and with the notes of woody or the note of ebony, wood, elemi, apricot, peony, olibanum, so a raisin, ink, vinyl, black pepper, and rum. So this is a very promising scent and definitely worth a try. And also other fragrances. For example, Yves Saint Laurent Parisien. So this is a vintage scent, and Yves Saint Laurent Parisien, the newer edition, 2024 edition. So both the vintage and more current contemporary one. And Estee Lauder Modern Muse La Rouge Gloss also has the note of vinyl in the scent profile, and thus the scent combines sour cherry notes, carrot seeds, pink pepper. So pink pepper is quite common note in women's fragrances, combined with vinyl, rose, leather, jasmine, modern mandarin orange, some honey, vanilla, saffron, patchouli, styrax, and labdanum. And overall, these are more or less unusual perfume notes and synthetic perfume notes are something that is still used along with fully synthetic ingredient notes. For example, Aldambre, Ambreine, Ambretoid, Aqual, Azar Bre, and Ambrofix. So all of these are just synthetic molecule combinations, which of course is very tricky to pronounce, but overall perfumers, especially nowadays, do create synthetic fragrance notes that are fully synthetic, and thus is just something unusual added or used on its own, and thus is creating and replacing the natural scent profile with something fully synthetic. For example, You Perfume's Tokyo by Night fragrance, and thus the more unusual fragrances. The molecule Perfumes also has fully synthetic perfume molecules that also are used within the natural scent profile together with more natural ingredients on their own. And that's all for today. So a more unusual scent range and scent profiles that are also worth exploring if possible. So that's all. Bye.